Welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I just want to do a bit of housekeeping. If you would wish to ask a question, please write it on the chat. I'll be able to see it as I go along, and hopefully then I'll be able to answer it as we continue. I hope we'll have some interactive discussions even as you're watching me live on YouTube, and thank you very much for making time to be here today. This is a pre-launch webinar for my upcoming book that is called Purposeful at Heart, and it talks about love, value, and belief in terms of understanding why anyone should be led by you. My name is Gilbert Angana. I am the CEO of Ascent Leadership Group. And we'll talk about it shortly. And just to give an overview of who we are as Ascent Leadership Group, I want to share a key highlights that we call ourselves leadership disruptors and growth activists. And our focus is actually to redefine the future and the present leadership culture, and mainly touching on the aspect of behaviors of leaders. I know in many spaces, leaders have various avenues to upskill, to improve their competencies, but there are very few avenues where leaders are able to develop their behaviors, to understand what behavior shift they need to have. And that's what we are focused on. So we use some unique driven techniques and programs that then helps in terms of enabling the leader to understand how to influence beyond positional authority. And we do this through coaching, one-on-one, enterprise coaching, group coaching. We do this through teaching and consulting and research. And you can find us in our website there. Our purpose, our vision is actually to build a movement of leaders whose power of influence will far exceed the authority of their position. And we do this by advancing leadership advocacy in Africa and beyond through coaching, consulting, teaching, and research. And this is our key focus as Ascent Leadership Group. As I said, my name's Gilbert Angana. I'm the CEO and founder of Ascent Leadership Group, and also the founder of Ascent Africa Forum. Ascent Africa Forum, basically, it's a continental platform where we have conversations around the Africa that we want. And if you go through our website, you'll be able to see the page for Ascent Africa Forum and interact with us. In fact, there's an upcoming webinar later in the month that is very insightful, and you don't want to miss on that. So personally, I have been in leadership for over the last 15 years in the corporate leadership space, and ventured now into the organizational development specialist specialization actually over the last 4 or 5 years, just to help leaders, to help organizations to really understand how their behavior impacts the success of the organizations and the success of the teams, and really helping them to drive purposeful, personal, and organizational transformation. So I've written 5 books. The latest one is this one that I'm sharing today, but I've also written a book called Engage and Productive that then highlights some 5 mind shifts that leaders need to build so that then they can be able to drive highly engaged and productive teams. And that's a critical book that you want to read. If you go through our website, you'll be able to find the resources that are there that you can be able to engage and interact with that book. I've also been fortunate enough to have accolades across global accolades across various platforms, and these are some of the accolades that I would want just to highlight to all of us, and hopefully then you'll be able to engage more on such leadership engagement as we move along. So our discussions today will cover 4 key areas. Our discussion today will cover the aspect of purposeful leadership, which is the anchor of the anchor foundation for this book, Purposeful at Heart. Then we look at the challenges of being a leader in today's workplace. Then we also look at the leader's behavior and why it's more important. Then now we'll look at the hearts of the contemporary leaders, so then they can be able to drive purposeful transformation. So we'll not necessarily look at it from this heading, but I think in the course of the discussions, you'll pick out some highlights that covers all these broad perspectives. So I want to jump in and move into the aspect of purposeful leadership. which is the foundation of purposeful at heart. So when you're talking about purposeful at heart, we're talking about you being a purposeful leader. And how does it compare with other leadership that are out there? And we talk about traditional leadership that touches on all other components, the transformational, the servant, or the authentic leadership, and all those components of leadership that you can talk about are basically meant to drive competencies and skills development in leaders. And they address the aspect of what leaders do and how they do it. So the aspect of competencies and skills for the leaders is actually built on what can the leaders do and how do they do it. So it helps in terms of building that. When you're talking about purpose-driven leadership, which has been discussed in many forums today, and it's one of the conversation that is actually really focused on leadership today, is it's looking at the why of leaders. So it looks at the specific actions that the leaders do to drive their purpose, to drive their why. And this is reflected in their daily actions that is geared towards driving their why, whether it's achievement of something, whether it's fulfilling their personal drive. So all these actions that the leaders are able to do to be able to drive the achievement of their why. But when you're talking about purposeful leadership, and this is the angle that I've taken in terms of bringing out the foundation of this book, we are talking about the heart of the leader. How is the posture of the leader when it comes to love? How is the posture of the leader when it comes to value? How is the posture of the leader when it comes to belief? And when we're able to harness the aspect of purposeful leadership properly, when you're able to harness the aspect of positioning of the leader's heart properly, then the leaders will understand why anyone should be led by them. I think that's the whole anchorage around these books that I wanted to bring on board. So the next, we just want to look at quickly highlights of some of the issues today that leaders are facing. And these are broad issues. So I won't really go into details of each one of them per se, but they are broad issues that today's contemporary leader is facing. Decisions around right and right, which is what we're talking about, the complex dilemma. You are faced with decisions that is either right and not wrong and right anymore. We have issues around climate anxieties. Today's world, we know a number of stakeholders are pushing towards ensuring that we take care of our environment in a much more responsible way moving forward. I mean, leaders are faced with fragmented energies. How do you make money in a responsible way? How do you make money in an ethical way? And these are the aspects of fragmented energies. We have existential quest as leaders. Issues like inferiority complex, imposter syndrome, challenges, infight, politics within our organizations and even within our social cycles are some of the existential quests that we are faced with. Toxic masculinity, and today we have even escalated it further in terms of then addressing the many aspect of our different gender avenues that we have. Apologies, I dropped off a bit, internet. So we've talked about all these systemic iniquities, some of the issues that today leaders are faced with in terms of the iniquities that are there in our organizations today. Issues around entrenched polarity. How do we move forward? from a success perspective, and then profound uncertainty. Today, the only thing that we are sure of is actually uncertainty. And all these are some of the critical issues that are affecting leaders today. But remember, what's our role? What's our role as leaders? What's our role in terms of driving our organization transformation? And we talk about our role as leaders is actually to embed shared vision within the spaces that we are at. We need to ensure that everyone is aligned to the vision that we are driving. We need to be able to lead that vision in terms of leading the change. We need to be able to inspire people to walk that journey with us as we drive that change. And we need to be able to empower people along that journey as we drive with them. And if we are to do this, if we are to do this successful, I will say, what are some of the things that are critical for us as leaders to be able to drive success, especially in transformation, success in driving thriving teams? And there are two things that possibly I would want to ask you think about it. When it comes to the success of what you're talking about, the transformation, is the experience level of the leader important? Is the technique that the leaders employ important? Which one is more important than the other? Or are they both important in this particular case? And I think these are questions that if we ask leaders, many of them will want to choose one over the other, or even both. But the reality is, and based on research that is there, that the leaders themselves are the critical variable for the success of any transformation that they would want to drive, for the success of their teams as they want to drive. And these anchors on their behavior, the leaders' behaviors as being critical success factor in driving success of their teams, in driving success of the organizations. But the funny thing is, or the unfortunate thing is, research shows that 70% of leaders are disengaged. And disengaged because of various aspects. Anxiety and stress, many leaders are faced with that. Poor work-life integration. We have many leaders who are dissatisfied with their jobs. We have leaders who have burnout. And these are some of the key components that are actually making leaders disengaged. Yet, we as the leaders are the ones that are supposed to be at the forefront in embedding shared vision, in leading the change, in inspiring people, in empowering people. How then are we able to do all that is if ourselves, we are disengaged? In fact, research also shows that the constituent, your team members, are actually saying that they're not impressed by your capability as a leader. 40% believe that they could do better than their leaders. And some of them believe that they will be happy and excited and relieved when you leave the organization or when you leave their team. And these are factual information based on research that has been conducted, especially current research that has been done. And yet, if you look at the overall scope of things, is we are expected to drive transformation in organizations. We are expected to build highly engaged and productive teams. We are expected to build thriving teams. But the reality is, people are leaving us. People are not leaving our organizations. In fact, today in post-pandemic, based on research, that people are still quitting their leaders. They're not quitting the organizations. A research that was done by Gallup in 2022 shows that 33% of employees worldwide consider themselves engaged. Only 33%. So 67% of constituents, employees worldwide consider themselves disengaged. And why are they disengaged? Because 70% of leaders are disengaged. Because 70% of leaders have issues. Because of the issues that you talked about on what employees are saying about their leaders. And it's also not a surprise why 33% of HR time is spent addressing issues around poor leadership within their different organizations. So despite how the different organizations are using resources to upskill their leaders, to drive more competencies in them, the reality is, if we are not able to address and improve on behaviors as leaders towards our constituent, then all that investment in terms of upskilling, in terms of competency, will go to drain. And why am I saying that? It's because the number one priority today of HR is improving leadership effectiveness in the organization. And why is it their number one priority? Because they are looking at the aspect of purposeful transformation. Purposeful transformation is important in organizations. And purposeful transformation is driven by purposeful leaders. In fact, research by Harvard Business Review, when you're looking about organization transformation in 2023, talked about the critical difference between successful transformations and unsuccessful transformations is actually the ability of the leader to embrace their constituents' emotional journey. So as a leader, the ability to embrace your employees' emotional journey is what will define your success in your team, in your organization. And we all know that transformation is difficult for organizations, for individuals, for leaders. But as leaders, we must be able to build the right emotional environment for engagement with our teams. We must be able to drive a compelling rationale. We must be able to actually create a proper foundation for emotional support if we are to actually drive successful transformation, if we are to drive purposeful transformation in our organizations, if we are to drive thriving teams. Over the last 3 years, I've been engaging with leaders and I've been asking them one simple question. Why would anyone be led by you as a leader? And if I ask you, why would anyone be led by you? The reality is 9 out of 10 leaders were talking about the skills and competencies that they have is the most important component of why anyone will be led by them. And these are some of the feedback that I receive from leaders. And all this feedback touches on their skills and competencies. 9 out of 10 leaders, 90% of leaders are talking about the reason why people should be led by them is because they have the skills and competencies to drive the team, to lead the organization. And only a few of them will talk about the reason that anyone should be led by them is about the behavior and what the employees want. On the flip side, when I discussed with the employees in terms of reflecting what kind of leaders will they want, or what will they want from their leaders, it's totally opposite. It's not about their competencies. It's not about their skills. And I think that's the reason why this book, Purposeful at Heart, was born. Because leaders have a perceived drive on why people should be led by them. Yet the employees on the other end are looking at a totally different thing. So how do we bring these two things in a way that everyone is aligned? So then the leader and the employees will be able then to form proper engagement, and the leader will be able to drive thriving teams and successful transformations within the organizations. That's the reason why Purposeful at Heart is important. That's the reason why this book is coming out to you as a leader to understand these facets and start shifting your behavior so that then you can be able to transform your team, transform your organization in the direction that will be purposeful. And the good news is we can actually do it. We can do it. And I believe that leadership needs to be reconceptualized, to stop focusing much on competencies and skills and purpose, but also to try and look at the behavior of the leader as a critical component in terms of driving successful teams and successful organization. And that's why this pragmatic book, Purposeful at Heart, is coming up to be able to give that overview in terms of behavior shift that leaders need to have if they are to drive success, if they are to drive higher productivity within their different spaces. In fact, I say that the fundamentals of leadership are actually due for change. So it's not about competencies and purpose, which are fantastic, they're important, but this will not drive exceptional productivity and purposeful transformation in organizations. What will drive purposeful transformation is the understanding of what the employees, what the constituents need, want, and desire. And that's what I talk about when I talk about the 3 hearts in the book Purposeful at Heart. And I dare say that a leader's heart is a differentiator in terms of powering, thriving workplaces in organization. And that's the aspect of the contemporary leader that we are talking about. That's the aspect of the purposeful leader that we are talking about. So when I'm talking about purposeful leaders in the book Purposeful at Heart, I'm talking about leaders who understand the empowered contemporary workforce. Leaders who understand the workforce need. Leaders who understand the workforce, what the workforce want. Leaders who understand the desires of the workforce today in order for everyone to thrive, in order for the team to thrive, in order for the organization to thrive. And that is who a purposeful leader is. So when I talk about who is a purposeful leader is one who understands that people need to be loved unconditionally. A purposeful leader is one who understands that people want to be valued. And a purposeful leader is one who understands that people desire to be believed in. This is the gist of Purposeful at Heart. This is why this book is there. This is why I share this book out based on my engagement over the last 3-4 years with leaders and their teams. And because there's a need for a shift in leaders' behavior, then this book is coming out to showcase to you on the need to embrace these 3 hearts of love, value, and belief. This will provide the scaffolding for purposeful transformation in your organization, in your team. And this is a critical component of your posture, the posture of your heart as a leader, if you're to drive successful teams and successful organizations. And I talk about it in those 3 folders. Purposeful leaders leverage on 3 hearts to understand why anyone should be led by them. The heart to love people unconditionally, the heart to value people, the heart to believe in people. So if I'm to answer why should anyone be led by you, really, if you're to answer that, it's because you love people unconditionally. And when you love people unconditionally, when you stop loving people, you start manipulating them. And I think this is a sentiment that was shared by John Maxwell. Why anyone should be led by you, really, because you value them. And Von Goethe talked about the way you see people is the way you treat them. And the way you treat them is the way they become. So when you value people, you explore their potential. I will talk about it shortly. Why anyone should be led by you is because you believe in them. And people will rise to the level of the expectation that you set. I think this is at the core of the book, Purposeful at Heart. This is the reason why I wrote that book. This is the reason why my heart is actually for challenging leaders to have a behavior shift if they are to drive thriving teams, if they are to drive purposeful transformation. So love, value, and belief are the accelerators that we need today in contemporary workspace to be able to drive transformations that are successful. So let's just jump into the 3 hearts and see. And I just want to assure you, have an open mind. I'll share some high levels of the 3 hearts, but when the book will be out in the next couple of days, both on Amazon and other online platforms, check it out, read through the book for you to understand some of the details around these 3 hearts and some of the things that you need to unlearn as assumptions in leadership and some of the things that you need to learn at the core to learn so that you understand what is at the core of why anyone should be led by you. And I quickly want to look at the 3 hearts. One is a purposeful leader loves people unconditionally. I think I've shared that when you don't love people, you're actually manipulating them. And in the book, I've actually given a quick self-audit in terms of how you can rate yourself at the level at which you show love to your team. And the reason around that is to be able to help you to understand where you are from a level perspective and what you need to do to be able to, what are some of the actions that you need to do to be able to ensure that your leadership lifestyle is portraying love to others unconditionally. And I share about 4 things that are critical for a purposeful leader if you're to show, if you're to love people unconditionally. And I talk about being interested in people, because you can't love people that you're not interested in them. Accommodating constructive feedback, allowing that opportunity where your team and yourself will have both feed forward and feedback in terms of areas that are more developmental, that will build both of you and will build the team together. Investing in people, investing your time, investing your resources in enabling people, equipping people from a behavioral perspective. Preparing people to succeed is critical to show them love. So if you are not building these capabilities, or you're not exercising these behaviors intentionally, these commitments intentionally, and making it part making these commitments as part and parcel of your leadership lifestyle, then chances are that you are not exploring the full potential of your love in the team. And which is very, very critical, So let's look at the second. A purposeful leader values people. And when we talk about value people, is that when you value people, you're giving them freedom. And value means recognizing people have capabilities, developing their skills, and enriching their professional and human qualities as a leader. And in the book I've shared some self-audit where you can be able to do a quick audit of where you lie from a value perspective in terms of how consistent are you showing value to your team. And I call it a value self-audit, which is critical for you as a leader. When you get that book, go to the value audit, try and check first where you are. And then now look at some of the steps that you have highlighted in that book that will be able to help you in terms of developing it. And also share 4 commitments on how you can be able to practice value. And the first one is encouraging people instead of pushing them to the brink. As a leader, don't just push people, regardless of the pressure within the organization to deliver. Encourage people to walk that journey with you. Encourage people to be able to explore their potential. The second one is understand and help others rather than use threat. And I know many leaders in high pressure organizations we like using threats. We want to tell our staff that we'll sack them, they'll be terminated and so on if they don't perform. But why don't we understand and help them to walk that journey with you, so then they can be able to succeed in whatever area. Challenge others with motivation and rigor. And of course, the last one there is praise others instead of belittling them, regardless of their state, regardless of your relationship with them. Praise them. Pick the 1% that you agree with them and fan it to 99% and see the kind of transformation that will happen in them. The third heart that is critical is a purposeful leader needs to believe in people. And this is what I talk about. I talk about it that when you believe in people, when you believe in someone, it helps them to find their inner strength that they didn't know. And when they find that strength, it strengthens their emotional, it strengthens their intellectual, it strengthens their spiritual capability. And this helps them to enable them to actually achieve their potential. And that's the foundational aspect of believing in people. And in the book, I've also highlighted a belief self-audit that you can be able to quickly do a couple of questions that will be able to showcase to you where you are from a belief perspective in terms of your consistency. And it will help you then to find ways on how you can be able to improve from where you are. And some of the things that I talk about in the book in terms of believing in people. Believing is about believing in yourself first, because you can't believe in your people and you don't believe in yourself. There's no way that you'll be able to show belief in others if you don't believe in yourself. Helping people discover and develop their gifts is critical in terms of showing that you believe in them. Provoking their status quo is critical, and empowering them. When you empower your team, when you empower your constituent, then you are showcasing to them that you're believing in them. And in the book, the 3 hearts and the 12 commitments are the foundational aspect of Purposeful at Heart, are the foundational aspect of why anyone should be led by you. So when we talk about love, when we talk about value and belief, and all these 12 commitments that we've talked about in high level, and they explained in details in the book, this is the reason why anyone should be led by you. And I think as I wind out, I want to challenge organization leaders who get to hear this message. I want to challenge human resource professionals who get to hear this message, that we can develop purposeful leaders in organizations. And I highlight some 3 key areas on how we can partner, so that then you can be able to develop purposeful leaders in your organizations at whatever level. And one is by creating a continuous system of leadership development. And this can actually be done through the self-audit assessment that I've highlighted in the book. Once we know where you are, then we can be able to work with you now on the next aspect of investing in experiential leadership and help you in terms of developing the aspect of purposeful leadership by working with you through a 4 weeks a mastermind with your leaders to enable them understand these 3 key hearts in details and how to be able to engage and practice them as part of their leadership lifestyle. And the third one is for leaders and organizations to embrace stakeholder coaching conversation. I think this has been highlighted more, especially when you talk about stakeholder coaching conversations through Marshall Goldsmith coaching sphere. And this is, I mean, something that if entrenched within your organization, within your leader circle, something will happen with your leaders in terms of shifting the behavior to what we're talking about when you're looking at love, value, and belief. So as I wind up, I want to challenge you to partner with us, to partner with me as we look at helping you, equipping your leaders in understanding these 3 hearts. And I talk about the 3 self-audit as the tools that will help you in terms of understanding where you are in the 3 different levels. And in each of the self-audits, you let understand whether you are a builder. That means that you are a leader who have the ability to understand and you build and you edify and encourage and uplift others. Whether you are an empowerer, your ability to enable others to have equality, respect, and confidence in undertaking their things, their duties, or whether you are a reproducer. That is your ability to raise other leaders. And the idea is for you to move towards being a reproducer in each of the 3 categories for love, value, and belief. And this tool is actually critical, especially when you're looking at the self-audit assessment. Then the second one is actually a 4 weeks mastermind on the book, Purposeful at Heart. That then will work with you and your leaders through a 4 weeks discussion, which is actually then designed in a way that we have 3 hours every week for 4 weeks. And your leaders will come out of that having entrenched the aspect of purposeful leadership within their heart and understanding all these 3 hearts. And of course, this will be through understanding the experience cube and some of the discussions around that. And then we have what we call an experience cube game that will enable your leaders to really bring out the understanding of the 3 values that we talk about in the book, Purposeful at Heart. And actually, when we do this, then you'll see a difference in the way your leaders engage your teams. You'll see a difference in the way your leaders show up every day. Because Purposeful at Heart is about understanding the need that your team needs to be loved, that your team wants to be valued, that your team desires for you to believe in them. And when you show up, you're showing up with a heart to love, you're showing up with a heart to value, and you're showing up with a heart to believe in your people. So the choice is yours. What choice will you make to be able to drive that purposeful transformation? So I want to stop there and encourage you to, get in touch, follow us through the various social media platforms. Watch out over the next couple of days, you'll see the book out. Grab the book, read through the book, go through the assessments, understand where you are, give us feedback, and let's have a conversation around purposeful leadership. Let's have a conversation around purposeful at heart. If you want to call us for a brief session with your team, with your leaders, engage us through the contacts, and we'll be glad to come and share this information. We'll be glad to come and share some of the assessments with your team and enable them to actually drive out and lead with and have purposeful leadership as they engage with their teams. So I want to stop there and thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for your time on this. And I look forward to many other engagements. I look forward to the launch of this book, and I hope that it will be in your hands very soon. And I believe that this book will have a space in your heart that will challenge you as a leader to have what you call a behavior shift. Thank you very much. My name is Gilbert Angana. I'm the CEO of Ascent Leadership Group, and it's been a pleasure to be with you this evening. Thank you.